What's going on, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Expected Bets for your go-to podcast for all things hockey betting. Today, I'm joined by my two co-hosts, as usual, Gretzky Betskis and Franco the Banker. Franco, this is your episode, so I'll introduce you first. How's it going? You ready for your Flyers talk?
Yeah, man, I'm ready. This is the most excited I've been for this team in a long time. Obviously, there's reason to be a little bit tempered with it, but having a guy like Michkov coming over, man, is just it's fun right now. I watched the rookie games last week, which I've never done, I don't think ever. And it was just exciting seeing him play on the ice and make stuff happen. And already he's shown some flashes in that game, so it's an exciting time. There hasn't been a guy like this on this team in a very long time, not since really like Lindros, really. So, and that's like 1,000 years ago at this point. So,
I said the prospect games used to be kind of the Sabres Stanley Cup, right? Because that's all we had. So that every year before the season even started, we just look forward to those games because that was the best product on the ice that we had all year. Betsky, how we doing?
Yeah, pretty good. This is going to be a interesting conversation. This is a weird team on paper with the addition of Mishkov. And just to go on your comment, Franco, what about Giroux though? But he wasn't hyped up from day one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Giroux is a very good player, right? He wasn't like this level of player. Like Eric Lindros won the Hart Trophy, right? So that's the type of talent he was. He was a fantastic player. Obviously, injuries ruined his career, but like that's like the expectations, at least like I have in my mind of like that type of tier where he could be like one of the best players in the league, right? Like potentially at least.
Yeah,
coming in right now they haven't had a guy like that since him.
Yeah, the Bedard draft year, it was him neck and neck, and there's reason to like Mishkov more than Bedard, which it sounds crazy, but if you go back to his draft year and you watch all the videos, it's easy to forget that a lot of the reasons why he fell was all the Russian factor. Nobody knew how big he was. Kind of the whole blanket around the KHL right now because of the conflict in Ukraine. So just scouts not getting out there as much. And then, the quote unquote attitude issues, and we'll see how Philly treats him.
Well, if you're going to have an attitude issue, I feel like Philadelphia is the perfect place for you.
Welcome in.
True.
Yeah, put them at the link. All right, let's get into the Philadelphia Flyers team preview. Getting into this Flyers squad, Franco, you guys add Michkov, and that's about it, right? So I'll let you take the floor here on kind of he's your main addition that you could talk about, but what are your thoughts on this overall construction of this roster?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the addition besides him is going to be just the extensions they signed. They got the Konechny deal done, which was he was on the trade market for what felt like a large chunk of the last 2 years. They bring back a couple of young players in Zamula and Bobby Brink. Garnet Hathaway is a decent depth signing as well. He's got that little bit of grit that Torts loves, and he can move up and down that third and fourth line. So as much as they haven't added anybody except for Michkov, bringing all those pieces back feels pretty good. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, I'm very excited for Michkov, but I like the fact they brought back TK. I don't really love the length of the deal. 8 years is a long time. He's on the smaller side as far as his size, but the price is pretty decent for him. Zamula has shown some flashes as well on the blue line. He's pretty big and has looked decent. So extended him for 2 more years as well. I just hope that really when it comes down to it with these younger players that Torts gives them a chance. So last year, a guy like Brink, a guy like Morgan Frost, they were like in and out of the lineup constantly. It felt like even Forrester, all those guys have shown flashes of playmaking ability, skill, goal scoring ability. And it's just like whenever they would start to get going, you would check the lineup that day and see that, oh, they're out and Delorier's in. And you just scratch your head because you're like, why is Nick Delorier getting run on any team? But here we are. So yeah, I think that's my main, concern with this team as far as how it's built. But yeah, I mean, it's not too bad, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this team kind of exceeded expectations last year, right? Like they were sitting
Yeah.
in a playoff spot for a long time, and it felt like they were going to make the playoffs till about 2 weeks before the season ended here. Betsky, this goaltending room is pretty interesting, right? So you have Urson kind of thrust to that number one spot last year, played 63 games, but you also have Ivan Fedotov, right?
Fedotov, yeah.
Yeah.
Fedotov, coming over from the KHL. So Michkov will have a buddy at least, but it's a lot of. I mean, Urson has experience, right? But he kind of struggled into that workhorse role to the number one goaltender. So you kind of wonder how many games Fedotov can give him, and if neither are kind of sustainable options, it seems like this team's in a pretty sticky situation.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I thought Urson had a couple incredible games and
Yep.
some really spectacular performances when he was getting to split more time with Hart. Then after all the issues with Hart and having to leave the team, you got to see what happens when a young goalie or a goalie who is not ready for that starting role gets thrown into it. And you got to see him kind of break down near the end of that season, even though he still was able to pull some wins out near the end that were a lot on his own performance. But I don't know too much about Fedotov, but I believe, if I remember correctly, there was a lot of chatter about him coming over. Yeah, and I know did he have visa issues or issues with his KHL contract, or even like maybe the military?
Yeah, so he got detained or he got pulled
Yes, that's
back
right.
and had to serve for the military because of that. So a lot of fans thought he was going to be gone and they would lose the players, lose the pick. But once he served his time, he came back over. The big thing was that they had signed him to a 2-year, $6.5 million dollar contract towards the end of the season last year, and a lot of people were like, "Why are you signing this
Yeah.
guy that is like completely unproven at this point?" Right? But I feel like it was one of those things where they had to do it, and
Or he would have gone
assure,
back to the
yeah,
KHL.
he would have gone back over, and to assure him he was going to be on the team. Now,
Yeah.
another situation that's kind of going on with that is the guy Kolosov, who's the other goaltender they have from Belarus, I believe. He's another high upside top goaltender prospect that signed a contract earlier in the season last year, and now he does not want to play for the AHL team. So he kind of is staying. He went back to Belarus and isn't coming over, but they kind of are holding the cards. So that's kind of a weird situation that's going on there because if Urson doesn't pan out, like you could in theory see both of those guys on this team next year, but it's just what's going to happen with him. And both of them have massive upside though, as far as their performance in the lower leagues.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those scary situations where you're also kind of stuck with the goaltenders you have. Like I'm sure you feel like you'd be a lot more confident if you had, like a 1B that's been tested starting instead of Urson. So Fedotov can kind of adjust. I didn't realize Fedotov was actually 27 though. So he has some experience kind of doing a full starting capacity in the KHL. But it's a different grind. The NHL season's just so long, so much more grueling, games so much faster with the smaller ice that you see a lot of European players take a little bit of time to adjust. But this could really be one of those things where Fedotov just takes the starting role immediately or within the first couple of weeks of the season and never looks back, right?
Well, yeah, he came over like towards the end of the season last year and played like a handful of games, like 10 games or something, and he didn't look very good. And
Yeah.
and a lot of it was he had said that it was hard to adjust to the ice size and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I mean, the good thing is both him and Urson are getting a full season or a full off season, should I say, to like prepare for their roles, right? Like Urson last year was expected to play 15 to 20 games, right? And obviously with the Hart situation, that changed everything. And he broke down and all that. Now he's coming in the season expecting to probably play 40, 50 games, right? And I would assume that Fedotov is going to get a decent run. I don't think it's going to be a true one with a guy that plays 20 games. I think we're going to see closer to like a 50-30, 45, something like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of excited because I did see those flashes from Ersan last year, and maybe he can mentally prepare this year and bulk up and withstand that a little bit better than he did last year.
It's interesting. It's probably the biggest question mark tandem in the entire league, with also a very, very high ceiling with astronomically low
floor
to the basement floor.
Yes. I agree.
The range there is pretty large. Franco, another issue for this team too is their power play. Right, they finished in the bottom of the league the past 3 seasons here. Maybe Michkov is kind of that spark that they need. A full season of Jamie Drysdale. What are your thoughts on this power play here? Because it seems like not even Torts taking over didn't really change anything.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal last year. I don't know how you finished dead last, and with
Somebody's
again, I think they have pieces though that can score. Like they're goal scoring pieces that you put on a power. You make a power play with your best pieces that can produce and pass. Right, like that's the point. How is that? How is the sum of those parts just that bad? Where we're talking about the Penguins being historically bad last year, and the fact that they were even better, worse than them. It's just like wow. But I mean, when I look at this on paper, like you see Konechny, Frost, Mishkov, and Tippett, along with probably Drysdale over York. I know again York's listed there on Daily Faceoff, but I think they would give Drysdale a shot there. It feels pretty damn good. In that rookie game, they had a power play and they scored on it with Michkov being the guy like facilitating everything. So it's just insane what a player like that can do. It's kind of like what we see from just any of these guys with talent. Like Barzell's another one. We were just talking about the Islanders. Like when they have the puck on their stick, everybody's gravitated towards them. Everybody's watching them skating around the zone, and you find somebody open and open up ice. So I think obviously there's nowhere to go but up if you're the worst team in the league, but I think if they can be more towards the middle, this team can improve significantly.
Yeah, Michkov power play points, I guess, is the angle, underrated angle that we could be targeting this season.
Yeah. Him and Drysdale, I would be targeting early for sure.
I like it. All right, before we get into the best and worst case scenario for the Philadelphia Flyers, I'd like to talk to you about our sponsor, BetterHelp. This episode of Expected Bets 4 is brought to you by BetterHelp. Have you ever stopped to think about something new you'd love to learn? As adults, we don't always make the time to learn we used to when we were kids. Kids are constantly exploring and growing, but somewhere along the way, life gets busy and we lose some of that curiosity. What's something you've been wanting to dive into? Maybe it's cooking, picking up a new language, or even figure out your golf game to finally beat your new friend. Just because we're older doesn't mean we have to stop growing. In fact, therapy can help you reconnect with that sense of wonder. It reminds you that your back-to-school moment can happen at any time. Therapy is not just for people who have gone through something major. It's for anyone looking to be the best version of themselves. Therapy can help you learn positive ways to cope with stress, set healthy boundaries, and tackle challenges with more confidence. It's really about giving yourself the tools to thrive and grow, no matter what stage of life you're in. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. Now back to the show. Getting into the best and worst case scenario for this Philadelphia Flyers team, Franco, I'll kind of uplift your spirits here. I won't give you the worst case. So the best case scenario here, playoffs. We talking playoffs?
I want to be like Chads and say Stanley Cup, but
yeah,
I will be realistic. I mean, they were right on the cusp last year, and if the power play does improve, then why couldn't they be fighting with a team like the Islanders and maybe Pittsburgh or whatever towards that 4 spot in this division and maybe sneak in? I don't think that if they get there, they're going to win a series. I could see them being that type of team that gets there and loses in 5 or something like that, real quick exit. But if they did make the playoffs, it would be a great thing because there's a lot of young pieces on this team, and I think that could be massive just for their development and just learning and feeling what it feels like to be in the playoffs, because it's been a while with this team. But yeah, I think that would be probably the best case scenario, just being able to make it and seeing some excitement, seeing some steps from this young core. Morgan Frost kind of hasn't been given a chance yet. I feel like I would really like to see him step up this year, as well as Forrester.
Yeah, Betsky, in terms of the worst case here, Torts is kind of part of this old guard of coaches, right, that have been around the NHL for the past 15 to 20 years, slowly trying to kind of, I guess, integrate themselves and kind of get hip with the kids, basically, and change their coaching style, to say the least. I think that's kind of how you have to put it. And we also mentioned this goaltending room where the floor is below the basement if everything goes awry. So worst case scenario, it feels like it's a combination of the young talent kind of not really meshing with either themselves or the coaching staff, and then the goaltending room kind of not panning out as well.
Well, I guess the good thing is if it's a coaching issue, that's an easy fix and probably something that even Flyer fans are kind of expecting to happen. Maybe not this season, but down the road. I mean, it seems like Torts kind of wears his welcome out. Maybe he meshes really well with everybody, and it's something where he finds kind of a more stable home for a little bit, but it should be interesting. I would love to be a fly in the room for any Torts and Mishkov meetings, especially if he gets benched or anything like that. But yeah, I think your worst case scenario here is just a complete, goaltenders cannot hang. The defense is still really young with kind of York and Drysdale being your kind of sparkling pieces there. If they can't take that next step and the goaltenders are not playing well, and now you're kind of worried about prospect development for your young guys like Frost and Tippett and everybody else, and obviously Mishkov, and a bad season on record wise with bad coaching / fit for the young guys and the young players not developing, I think is probably your absolute worst scenario.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're going to come out and kind of roll over every night, right? Like Torts
no, and I mean that's
not going to allow that, but it's in terms
but
of,
if you turn on him, or if the players don't want him around anymore and don't come out and play, it could be ugly, and it could kind of even taint the way those players are viewed kind of around the league and their what quote unquote like value. But obviously there's room to bounce back after that too. But yeah, you definitely want to, at least if you're not going to be racking up the wins, you want to see a lot of development here with the young kids. And to be honest, I mean, I don't think you would hate another top 5 pick, would you, Franco?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's like, do I want them to make the playoffs, or do I want them to just suck again and then have another top 5 pick?
Mishkov winning the Calder and you guys get a top 5 pick is probably the best
worst case
for the team.
But the reason that they get the top 5 pick is the goaltending room, which already has issues.
Yeah. Or dream scenario, a lotto win. And you're fighting for a playoff spot right till the end, but there's a little bit more teams in the West that kind of, or there's like a small, like 1 point gap. So fighting for a playoff spot, win the lotto.
Yeah, you just don't want the collapses last year, right? Like you want to be like kind of steadily in it all along, not holding that position and then drop off a cliff. You kind of want to be hovering around that cliff, not just fall off of it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they lost 9 of their last 11 games last year. Like that's just they ran out of steam. It felt like after the All-Star break, they just lost everything they had going for them towards the beginning of the season. So we'll see if that's because of the coaching or if it's something else. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, before we get into some team and player futures, I'd like to talk to you about our sponsor, DraftKings. TD, Tutty, taking it to the house. Whatever you call a touchdown, they matter more at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Ready to place your first NFL bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. The NFL season is back in full swing, and who doesn't love rooting for a touchdown? So be sure to check out the latest odds at DraftKings Sportsbook. Ready to do a touchdown dance of your own? Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. Only at DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Getting into some team futures for this Philadelphia Flyers squad. Their regular season points total is listed at 85.5. They're plus 200 to make the playoffs, minus 250 for no. Division winner 20-1, conference winner at 30-1, and Stanley Cup at 60-1. Franco, the floor is yours here. I'll give it to you, but it feels like the division, the conference, the Stanley Cup markets are off the board.
Yeah, I'll agree with that as much
Okay.
as I want to.
I try to make that as positive as I could.
Of course, as every fan should, they should sprinkle a little bit on the cup just to have it in your back pocket. But other than that, I think if I'm going over the 85.5, I would rather just make the playoffs at plus 200. But yeah, I'm not. There's no way I'm taking division with the way this division is stacked up. I just don't see it. You can't compete with those top teams. But again, I think that they will be at least in contention for that wild card spot for a decent part of the season. I don't know how long it'll last, but that would be where I would go if I had to take anything here. I don't think I would take the over 85.5.
Yeah, I think that's a good look for sure. Right, Betsky kind of continuously brings this up, at 91's the threshold, right?
Yeah.
And if they get 6 more points than they're projected to, they make the playoffs. So that's only 3 more wins, right? So if you're going to take that 85.5 at minus 115, getting them to make the playoffs at 2-1 feels like a lot more value there. Betsky, are you on any of these team props?
No.
Yep, that's fair.
That's fair.
I think, yeah. All right, moving along here to some player props. Drysdale for points is listed at 34.5. Mitchkov at 48.5. Tippett at 58.5. And Travis Konechny at 70.5. Franco, you're already sitting on a ticket for Mitchkov, correct?
Yeah, I locked him in at 46.5. I think it was like one of the first days they released it. I took that immediately. So I'm in at that. It's gone up 2 points. So feeling good there. I don't mind looking at Drysdale. Again, with him, it's all about the health, right? 34.5 points seems really, really low.
Yeah, I'd agree.
The minutes he's going to get and the power play time he's going to get. It's just, this is purely a bet. Is he going to stay healthy or is he going to get hurt again? So I don't love it, but the number, it just feels so damn low.
Yeah.
So that's really where I'd be at for the points markets. I don't mind looking at Tippett for goals or Konechny for goals as well. I honestly, all 3 of them, to be honest with you, I think they all look pretty decent. The numbers they're at, I think they can all kind of be productive on this team.
Yeah, Betsky, did you have anything else to add in terms of the player points or goal total market?
Yeah, I definitely would avoid that Konechny one. I do think that Drysdale one is just so low, but I hate to pump the brakes. Bedard only had 22 goals last season, and I know he missed about 14 games, but Mishkov is a little bit more of a playmaker than Bedard was his draft year too. So I wouldn't really want to hammer that Mishkov goal total necessarily up front. I don't mind that point total for him, but obviously the one I love is to transition right to the awards, the Calder for him. I mean, you got to think he's the favorite. He's by far, maybe not by far, but he's definitely the most skilled out of this class of candidates for the Calder. I know Macklin Celebrini was the first overall this past draft year, but I think there are plenty of scouts out there who would have taken Mishkov first overall in this draft class if that was how it panned out, outside of, you know, all the Russian and intangible factors there. So that is a bet that I am placing, and then I am going to kind of hedge with maybe another player or two as the I'll probably put another one in for Hudson from Montreal, and then I'll probably kind of watch the season play out and see if there's any kind of surprise risers early in. Maybe somebody like Cutter Gauthier, who used to be a Flyer, who may have all the opportunity in the world for the Ducks to kind of take the scoring lead for rookies, but by far, Mishkov should be the favorite for the Calder with good reason. And I don't know where he racks up to Celebrini right now to this day, but I think they open both at the same value as the leaders for it. So give me that all day.
Yeah, that Calder market's pretty interesting, right? Because you do have Celebrini and Michkov up there as the favorites.
Will Smith is not anybody.
That was the name I was going to mention. If you watched BC at all last year, Will Smith at 10-1 is some value. And then you have Stankoven, right? At 6-1
I was going to say Stankoven, like that's pretty crazy.
Was phenomenal last year and is not the favorite, right? So should be one of the better Calder races we've seen in the past few years.
Yeah, especially since last year was kind of a dud.
Yeah,
last 2 years were kind of a dud, right?
You could argue Faber won. Faber should have won it last year.
Yeah.
But the future NHL Golden Boy has got to get his Calder. So, Franco, any other of these trophies you're looking at here? Vezina odds not even available.
Yeah, I think it's funny there was no Vezina or what's it called? The Norris trophies options for them, which whatever, man. Like I'm not expecting anything like that from them anyway. But maybe you look at Torts like Jack Adams if this team makes the playoffs or does something impressive this year. But I think there's such a like negative thing towards him in general. Like I think he should have been in the conversation last year, considering this was probably supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league. And they were fighting for a playoff spot pretty much the majority of the year. And I don't think he even had like any votes last year. So I don't see how he's going to get votes this year if that's the case. So yeah, I think I'll go with Michkov probably for the Calder. I like the Hudson look as well. We talked about him when we did the Montreal preview. So I'll probably be joining you on both of those, Betsky, and then like you said, adding across the season as it goes on.
Yeah, Betsky, I'll start with you for closing thoughts here. Any on the Flyers?
I mean, I guess you got to be a lot more excited to watch them this year than going into last year.
Yeah.
Going into last year, I thought they were going to be one of the least bettable teams again. One of the least teams that has probably watched the least. And then I ended up really enjoying watching some of their games. It was nice to see Sean Couturier come back, Konechny having a hell of a season, and Tippett kind of becoming one of the shot and goal darlings of the league, which is always fun for the Sogs betters, if you will. So now you add somebody like Mishkov to this team, and Drysdale, who's a prospect I've always loved. And I thought that was a brilliant trade by the Flyers because they don't really have a top defensive prospect in that pool right now. So I thought that was kind of a nice way to pivot for a guy that was wanting to kind of start getting that playing time right away. So yeah, I think this is going to be a much more fun team to watch. I think the highs are going to be probably higher, the lows maybe a little bit lower or a lot lower. And I think this is one of those ones where Flyers fans need to buckle up for the ride and just kind of enjoy it no matter which way this goes, because kind of any outcome is good. You could be in a good pick spot territory to kind of build around the new Mishkov, Drysdale core, or you could be fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, Franco, I'll let you take us home here. Closing thoughts on your team.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, this is probably the most excited I've been in a while for this team. So can't wait to go to some games this year. Can't wait to watch this team night in and night out and see the improvements, and hopefully that you actually see some tangible changes with this team going forward, with the prospects looking better, Drysdale staying healthy, Michkov being what we're expecting him to be, I think is just going to make everything fun. I hope Torts lets him play. I think that's really what it comes down to. I think that you can't deny the talent that this guy has, and I know there's been a lot of people saying like, "Oh, just wait till Torts benches him in like the third game of the season," or whatever. But I don't think you can do that with a player of this caliber just because of what he offers, and I think he's going to try hard to not be that player that gets in the doghouse too. I think he has a drive, and we'll see that pretty soon, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll find out when he pulls his first Michigan in game. That'll be the real test to see if he gets put in the doghouse or not. All right, I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode of Expected Bets 4. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube so you never miss an episode. We've got tons of great content coming your way as we're rolling out our team previews. Be sure to check us out on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you again to our wonderful sponsors, DraftKings and BetterHelp. We appreciate everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.